to face down terrorism and the fear it spawns, and face up to our responsibilities to protect the people we serve, we should support this legislation as it progresses through the House, and it may be necessary in doing so to challenge those who seek to undermine it on the ground of the advocacy of the rights of those concerned. I anticipate there will be those challenges, and we must stand together as a House of Commons to defend the common good and promote the national interest.
Khalid Mahmood.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Always a privilege to follow the member for South Holland Deepings, and particularly in his time as a Security Minister, I was privileged to be able to work with him, again, which is demonstrated in the speech today. Madam Deputy Speaker, I would like to share my thoughts at the moment with the victims of all the terrorist attacks and their families and the hardship they've all gone through. And I think it's important for us at this time, during this debate, but at any debate in relation to this, that we remember those people who have suffered incredibly because of the failures of us as parliamentarians and legislation that we provide and the cover and support we provide for those people. I think it's important that we do that. This issue here is about two things. It's about resources into our prison service, but also what's the soft power behind that we need to put correct. It is not just good enough to say that we're going to extend further for a period of time the sentences they have, unless we put right what's behind it. And I think that really is the issue that I want to concentrate on. Of course, we want to look at the number of prison officers that are there, the support that they get. As my honourable friend on the front bench has already said, quite rightly, it's very important to ensure that we have the right corrective controls within the prison framework to be able to do that. And at the moment, we're failing in that. And I think we need to get that right and get that resourced properly and be able to move forward. It's important. A lot of members have spoken about the issues of imams coming into mosques. The issue is twofold here. One, in terms of psychotherapy and counselling for those people, but also in order to be able to tackle their misguided version of Islam. These people do not practice Islam. These people practice what they believe to be Islam. Islam in itself is a peaceful religion. I'll give one.
To my friend for giving way on that. As an RE teacher, I can assure him and want to sort of concur with his viewpoints that in no way do the radical views of a minority, and a small minority in that, reflect the views of Islam. I think it's very important, I'm glad the member's raising it, that we ensure that that never comes across in anything that we see or hear in our national media and in our national debates.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I thank the honourable member for his contribution. The issue is that when we get these people, how do we assess them and how do we work with them? A lot of issues have been made of de-radicalisation. But to do that, we need to have the right people to do that. Theologically, we do not have a principal education facility available to train those imams to go in. I had a friend at HMP Birmingham, who was a deputy governor there. They brought in an imam to try and speak to somebody who was radicalising the rest of the inmates. After a 2-hour one-to-one, the imam came out saying that, oh, I think I possibly agree with this inmate of what he was saying. That was due to the lack of knowledge of the so-called imam at that point itself. It isn't just good enough to say that somebody who calls themselves an imam are actually able, Madam Deputy Speaker, to deal with this very important issue. I give way.
Isn't the situation even a little bit worse than that? That there have been reports of imams from the Deobandi sect of Salafists who have actually been allowed access to prisoners?
As the honourable, thank you, Madam Speaker. As the right honourable member has said, and the experience that he's had himself on these issues, I think it's quite right to say that it's very difficult for people who don't understand the issues of religion to be able to putting people into places of religious control and support. And that is my clear point on this, is that we, first of all, should have proper registration for these people who will actually go into this institution. For anybody else to go into this institution, they must require the proper qualification, the proper certification to be able to go in. But yet on this issue, we will let most people walk in and say that they can do this job. So there has been an issue of actually perpetuating radicalization by some of the people that have gone in, and I've had stories of this as well in certain prisons, and the way that is followed. So I think it's important that we do that, and the way we move forward. I give way.
Delighted to the honourable gentleman's given way, and I thank him, and I do so partly to pay tribute to the good work he's done in this field for a considerable period of time. He's pointing out the difference between Islamism and Islam. There's a difference that's too rarely identified by our media, as he describes. And I just say to him, perhaps a review of the whole work of the prison service in the respect he described, the appointment of imams and their work in prisons, should be part of the ongoing work the government does to address this issue.
Great point.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Again, I concur with what the honourable member has said. I think in order for the government to move forward on this, I think for the last almost 10 years, we haven't paid enough attention to what has gone on. We actually now need to seriously look at this. These two instances and other instances have brought this to our attention, and the potential release of other prisoners have brought this to our attention. One of the big functional issues that you have in prison is how you position the inmates. The Atchison report, which looks at segregating these prisoners, has an issue to look at. But the way to de-radicalise is a real big issue. If you put them all together, they become a group. If you put them with other prisoners, they radicalise other prisoners. If you put them on their own, you can't do that, because the law doesn't, and the human rights of prisoners don't allow you to do that. So what we've got to do is not say there's a magic wand of de-radicalisation and the way to move forward. What we've got to do is take this issue very, very seriously. We've got to get the right people with the right understanding, and there has been good work done. Good work been done in Indonesia, in the UAE and Saudi Arabia in terms of looking at these ways of de-radicalising. And I think we've got to learn some of the lessons from there in the way that they're moving forward in order to try and to address some of these issues. So I think we're going to go further than that, looking at how these issues are relevant, how these issues are related to what the community want to do, and to do that. So also what we've got to look at is not just the issue of prisons that we've got to look at. We've got to look at external departments that deal with this as well. One of the big problems that we've got to do is very quickly is education. How we allow different madrasas to operate, under what licenses, Madam Deputy Speaker, they operate, and whether they operate under any license at all. Permission for a madrasa, for local authority, the only consideration that is given is whether it would cause any traffic planning or congestion at all or not. If you clear that, you can go and have one. No heed is given to whether the qualification of the imam is, whether they have the proper scrutiny in terms of their past and what they've done, whether they comply with any security checks at all or not. So I think these issues are very, very important for us to look at and to see how we move forward. This issue will and is the tip of the iceberg at the moment, the people that we have. There is still significant radicalisation that is taking place, and we need to address that in the community. It is progressing more in prisons because they have a captive audience to be able to do that, and we need to move forward. I think what we also need to do, and looking at the availability that we have in our prisons, is resources quite significant that is required to deal with this. So I think it's really important for us to look at how we deal with this. I also will say at this stage is that it's important, whilst we're looking at Islamic extremism, we also need to look at far-right extremism as well. If this bill is to apply to terrorists, it must also apply to far-right extremists as well. And I think that's important for us to say this. I know that my right honourable friend, member for Normanton, Pomfret and Castleford, has made a lot of sense in her contribution and the great work that she's done, certainly as the chair of the Home Affairs Select Committee and other work that she's done throughout, and deserves commendation for the great balanced way that she's worked on this and the issues that she's looked at. It's important for that to move forward. It's important for us to look at how we police some of these issues and how, when people are in there, when they start to come out, and as they will come out, to look at the control orders issues, which she has alluded to as well, and looking at how we need to sort of follow that forward. We have forgotten in the last 10 years about the issues of control orders when the prisoners were coming out. I think we need to get back to that and see what is valid and what is appropriate and how we can do that, and how we can possibly move forward to be able to do that. I think that's hugely important for us to do that. So we need to move forward in all those issues, and including, Madam Deputy Speaker, I do support the bill because the necessity that is required at the moment for us to move forward with what is available to us. But I think we need to have a much deeper look at how we resolve this issue for the long term and for all of our community. Thank you very much.
Paul Holmes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I want to speak very briefly on why I welcome this bill and why I believe that the bill outlined this afternoon